Right, so think about the following, right? So this is going to be this groundbreaking work. He knows it. He knows he's going to face a lot of resistance to this, right? And what does he begin with? What does chapter 1 begin with? It begins with domestication, with basically pigeon breeding, right? So you want to ask yourself the question, why does he begin with this? He's talking about artificial selection here, right? He's talking about what humans do, right, in an artificially constructed world in terms of breeding and breeding variations of animals, right? So it's kind of, it's an interesting move, right? And what is he trying to get across with this idea, right? So he's using basically this artificial model. He's using the idea of domestication, right, in order to show variation, right, and in order to show that variation is the prime idea. The idea of change or variation is the idea that people need to get in order to understand fully evolution and understand evolution with the idea of natural selection, right? So it's interesting that he's trying to, get this idea out through the idea of domestication, which seems the opposite of variation, right? And keep in mind that the second chapter is variation in nature. Um, that seems like it would have been a more logical chapter to start with. So take a look at this, right? I would say, here's where you see his scientific mind at work. And, so, it's basically the laboratory, right? So he, you can't see evolution in natural selection in action, right? It can only be seen sort of after the fact, and so he creates this sort of laboratory, a type of laboratory slash thought experiment, right, in which he runs the whole idea of evolution and natural selection through. So I've highlighted some of the crucial parts here, again, that he's going to get into. Again, take note of his language that he's using, and also take note here at the very end, he's talking about, evidence, right? So, like, why does he do pigeon breeding? And he mentions that pigeon breeding is something that has been done since pretty much the beginning of civilization. So he cites the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Romans, right? They actually did pigeon breeding and they wrote about it, right? So he has evidence to go back on. So it's interesting the type of evidence that he tries to pull together in order to analyze evolution and natural selection.